on new features that we're getting ready to release in AlarmBiller. And the platform I'm going to do it on today is actually our test environment, as these features haven't been released yet. So you won't see these in your system today, but you should see them in there tomorrow. Our plan is over this evening is to do the release and do the update of all these new features. I'm not going to hit every one of them. We are also going to be having a release document that's going to list some additional features. Now, this release is a pretty major release on our part. It not only covers a lot of external things that you're going to see, it also included a lot of internal performance and reliability and stability enhancements to the application as well. So let's get going, and hopefully we won't take up the whole hour. But again, if you have any questions, please fill those out, and we'll answer those as we go along. So as you can see, I'm logged into the home page. Not too much has really changed here. The only thing that you'll see different here is we did add, when you log in, it will show your local time zone. And if you needed to change that, you can actually click on that, and that will actually just take you to your user account settings, where you can go ahead and change those if you needed to, right from here, right from the home screen. The other thing that we have put in here that's new is this accepted proposals. So you can see I have one accepted proposal. Again, I could click on that and go into it right from here as well. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at a few of the changes. Now, one of the first and major changes we did is we now support at a customer site level the ability to create recurring revenue, RMR, work orders, and proposals for a site. So let's go ahead and take a look at a customer, and I made a customer up before we started, so there it is, Michael Marks. And you'll notice this customer, if I click on Sites and Systems, this customer has two different sites. You'll notice the first site has a system assigned to it. The second site doesn't. So when I go to expand it, you notice I don't see any systems in here. So here is a site, which is a summer home, which I haven't created a system yet for. So I'm going to click on the site to take a look at it and drill down. So you'll notice a few new tabs at the site level. The site has an RMR tab now. It also has a work order, and it also has a site parts. So you don't have to create a system if you don't want to, and you could do things right at the site level. Functionality-wise, it was going to work just like it did before, except you're not going to have that system layer in between. So if there were systems at this level, I could click on Systems, and I'd be able to see any of those. And of course, I can always create one if I wanted to. Now, for this site right here, I've actually created a work order. So here we can see that we have this work order created. And I'm going to click on it to open it up to take a look at it. Now, you'll notice a few things about a work order. The design, and it's changed just slightly. But you notice this work order doesn't have a system assigned to it. So this is actually a site level work order. One easy way to look at that is you could see site parts and site notes. Normally, if it's a work order for a system, this will say system parts and system notes. Now, for example, on this work order, I created a work order type of takeover conversion, and this was just a work order to check out the house for a takeover. So maybe we want to send the technician there to look at it before we take it over. I also created a special service level that I assigned to it called a takeover that has no billable charges. Because if we're going to go take it over, maybe just to go check it out, we don't want to actually charge the customer for that. Then once we get a contract, then obviously we'll charge the customer for it. And we can even update this work order to go for that if we want. So I'm going to click Edit here to edit this work order. Now, what I did beforehand is I already created an appointment for it. So again, we're looking at a site level work order, and there's my appointment for it. And if I come over here, I opened up another tab right here. I'm going to click on my calendar. There you can see my appointment for that takeover. Now, while we're in this appointment, I want to show you a few things we changed to the appointment. So I'm going to double click on this appointment. One of the things that we changed in here is we've created a new feature when you're inside the appointment where you can actually download the appointment to sync it with your Outlook calendar, your if you're using Google Calendar or Apple's calendar system. And I could either download it right to my workstation or I can email it. And this works just like a lot of other applications you've probably seen before, like the airline applications and things like OpenTable, where it just places the appointment on your calendar as well. So if you email it to a technician, and that's what this would do right here, they can then sync this to their Outlook or their calendar device. Now, clicking this sync button down here, this will automatically notify the attendees, the technicians, if there's any appointment changes. So that's a nice feature also, that it will automatically do that if you change the scheduled appointment time at any time. And that works real well too. So those are some nice new features with the appointment calendaring system. Now you notice, because this appointment is just for a site, it's only showing me my site information here, and it's not showing me any of my system information. That wouldn't show up because this is just for a site site only. You would dispatch it just like you would regularly. So I'm going to say dispatch now. I'm going to click save. I can still do my notification to notify the customer or the technician. So if I wanted to notify the customer that we've dispatched the technician, that they're on their way, I just click the notify customer, and this will now automatically send that email to the customer letting them know that the technician is en route and on their way to their home or business. You'll notice the ticket, the appointment now has turned blue, representing that my technician has been dispatched and is on his way. So let's go back over here to our work order, and I'm going to just click, I'm going to close this because I didn't make any changes to it. And we can see here that, that we have already dispatched the technician as well, right from within the work order. So that's the first thing, is that work orders now can be done at the site level. The other thing you could do is you can actually create, and let's go back over here to the customer. And this time what I'm going to do with this customer is, again, I'm going to click on Sites and Systems. We'll go back into that site that we were looking at just a moment ago. And you notice there was no RMR for that site. So we can actually create recurring revenue for a site itself. So we don't have to have it as a system. So if I come over here, I'm going to click on New Recurring Revenue. And here we're going to tell it what it is. I'm going to say it's just a radio backup. I don't have a lot in my database. If I don't want to prorate this, because if I say the activation date is today, but I don't want to prorate it, meaning I want to bill it for the whole month of April, I would say do not prorate. If I uncheck that, it will now prorate it for the month of April. And let's just say that we want to make this for, we want to bill this quarterly. And what we can also do now is, normally we would say maybe it's $29.95 a month. So each cycle would be $89.95. But let's say, for example, you wanted to bill this customer $100 per quarter charge. Well, I couldn't say put 130. If I put 33.33 in here, it would say it's $99.99. So what we can now do is we could say use cycle amount. And if we click on this, what I can now do is edit the cycle amount, and I could change it to $100. Now you'll notice the monthly amount will still be $33.33 because that's the only way I could divide that out. So for our recurring revenue monthly reports, we'll report this as $33.33. But when the invoice is created to the customer, it's going to say $100. Okay. Now, if you prorate anything that's using a cycle amount, it will prorate it based upon the monthly amount because there's no other way to do that. But if I didn't want to prorate this and I just want to bill it for the whole quarterly billing, and that's what I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to say do not prorate. So the first invoice it creates for them will bill for the whole period of April and $100. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second. And then I'm going to give it the reason why we created that, and I'm going to click Save. So now I created that recurring revenue. You notice it's my radio backup monitoring, and my billing cycle is quarterly, and my cycle amount is $100. And it says use cycle amount, yes. So it knows to use that cycle amount when we invoice this customer. So let's go back over here to the customer, and let's generate that recurring invoice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on RMR here, and I'm going to say these are some of the other recurrings I have for this customer, but the only one I have that needs to be billed in April is the one we just created. So I'm going to say generate recurring invoices. I'm going to bill it for my April period. So I'm going to say generate the preview. And there's my invoice that it's going to, it selects all the customers. And you notice it's going to do the line item for radio backup monitoring. It's doing the quarterly charge, and it's doing for a rate of 100. And you'll notice when you're doing cycle recurring, the quantity will always be 1. Where if I was doing quarterly recurring, the quantity would be 3, and the rate would be the monthly amount. But in this case, since the rate is the cycle amount, it has to be just a quantity of 1. So let's go ahead and just process this invoice. So let's go ahead and create that invoice. And let me just sort this real quick. And there's my invoice that we just created. I'm going to click on it to view it. And you'll notice it says radio backup monitoring. It still has my date of services in here, so I could see we're billing for that full period. My quantity is 1. My rate is 100. It is taxable, and it's $100. Okay? And then I do have my 7% sales tax. You will notice that the invoice now, based upon the sales tax that you select on the top, will display the sales tax rate. So will, when you click on the sales tax, you'll see the detail of your tax rates. Now, another feature we have done is we have increased the decimal places that you can take out of sales tax. So you can now go out to 4 decimal points, or when you display it, it will be like 7 points, and then you would see the 3 decimal points after that. So there are some taxing jurisdictions that do have some crazy tax rates that go out even an extra digit for you. Obviously, sometimes there will be a rounding issue. There's no way around that when you're going out that extra digit, but the system will automatically handle that for you. Again, if I wanted to email or deliver this invoice to this customer, I could click on my print, and I could choose that I can either preview this invoice, and if I preview it, it will just preview it to my screen so I could look at it. I could print it, so I could actually send it to the customer. I could deliver it based upon the delivery method. In this case, this customer's was email. Or I could just mark it as delivered if I really don't want to send it to them, but mark it as delivered so it knows not to send it to them. So if I click deliver, I have my option. I could choose mail, or I could choose the email address that it defaults to. I can always override this. I click email, and now it's just emailed that invoice to the customer. So very easy to do that. That's been functionality that's there, so that hasn't changed. Now, another really nice feature that we added was a lot of times we were getting questions and suggestions that on an invoice, you have the ability to select the tax rate. Now, what we've done is we've now also done that on proposals and work orders. So let me just go into a proposal for a moment. And I'm just going to pick this existing proposal right here that I did before and click Edit. And you'll notice now on the proposal line item level, you will see that there's a sales tax here. So you defaults in from the top, but you can override it on an individual line item level. So if need be, you're going to charge different sales tax rates for different services, or you want to override something and say make it non-taxable, you could do that on an individual basis. The other thing we added And this rate will carry over from the proposal to the work order to the invoice. So once you set it up in one level, that's all you have to do. It will automatically carry forward. Now, another nice feature what we did, both for proposals, work orders, and invoices, is the new sorting feature. So this is the sort order. It's going to print these items based upon what you see. But let's say I wanted the monitoring services to be at the top. I just click the up arrow and I can move it right to the top. And you notice when I click the down arrow here, it just swaps the two that are there. Now what I can also do is I can actually drag this and drag it to where I want it as well. So two different ways that you could actually move these around. You could actually do it by dragging them or using your arrows. Now you can also do the same for your parts. So here's all the parts that I have in this proposal. And again, if I want to change the order and how they display, I just click and move those around. You'll also notice throughout the system, we're trying to fancy up the icons. And that also gives us more room. So we put in little graphics within each one of them. So you'll notice, like for example, this part here, it has a delete button, a garbage can. So if I wanted to delete this part from this proposal, I can click the delete button. And you'll notice what it did is in my notification section on the top, it said, hey, you've deleted this part off this work order, off this proposal. So maybe I made a mistake and I didn't want to delete it. I can click undo and it will bring it right back into my proposal. So if I delete 3 of these, you'll notice all 3 of the ones I deleted, and maybe I just want to undo this one. So it tells you what you've deleted and so on. And the same thing goes for your item parts. So if I wanted to delete this installation fee, I can delete that one, and now I can just click undo and it will put it back on there. Now, the same functionality for this works for both, obviously, the proposals as I'm showing you now, but it also works with the work orders and with invoices. And I'll come back and I'll show you that in just a moment. Now, when you're inside a proposal, there's another new feature where you don't have to select the system because a proposal can just be for a site. So if I uncheck that, that means that this proposal now is just for the site. If I have a system selected, it's for that system. And as a new option, if you have security permissions to, you could click the new system and actually create a new system right from here that you want to quote for the proposal to the customer with. So it makes it a lot easier than having to create it with the work order and after the sale. So just giving you more flexibility in that as well. Okay. You'll also notice when you change a status. So if I change the status from open to sold, it will automatically take me to my completed tab to complete the proposal. And in a moment, I'll show you it does the same thing for a work order. Okay? So I'm just going to click cancel. I don't need to save that. So let's go back into that customer we were in just a moment ago, and that was Michael again. And this time I'm going to go back into that work order. So I'm going to click on work orders, and let's just open up that work order we were in just a moment ago, and I'm going to click edit. And let's say now that we want to add some item charges to this to do the takeover. Now this is all new. Anytime you see us, whether again we're in a proposal, we're in a work order, or we're in an invoice, the items and the parts selections are a little bit different now. So you remember before, if you said add a new item, it had a drop-down list. Now what happens when you click on add a new item, you're going to get an item search list. And this item search list, I can actually pick whichever item I'm looking for. I can scroll through them and see all my different item codes from here. I can, if I wanted to add 2 of these item codes or more, I can just go ahead and pick whichever ones I want. And then if I said add items, it would select and add all of those items for me. If I needed to, I can re-sequence these in whatever order I want them to be. If I wanted to get rid of one of them, I could just delete it. And you notice it says I deleted that item code, and if I wanted to undo it, I can undo it. Now, you'll also notice when I clicked on the items, there are actually a few new fields within here now called category and subcategory. And what this allows you to do is you can now group your items by categories. And you can actually do sorting by this and looking them up. We don't have it yet, but we are going to add additional sales reports down to the category and the subcategory level. You do not have to use the category and subcategories. It's really for convenience for looking things up and for reporting later on. So it is a nice feature, and it's something you might want to utilize. But again, you don't have to. It really works really nice with parts. Because let me go into the parts now. And remember, if you had hundreds of parts or thousands of parts, you don't have to any longer go ahead and hit the pull down. You hit add parts. It will show you all your parts. For the part, not only do we add the category and the subcategory, but we also added the manufacturer. And so that makes nice to look things up real easily. So again, if I want to pick multiple parts because I wanted to add all these parts, I just go ahead and select those, and it automatically added those parts to this work order. Okay? Now, you'll notice this work order still says don't charge them because my service level was a takeover. So if I wanted to change that and say I want to now charge them because it's just regular time and material, I can now go ahead and change that. And now it will properly invoice for any item codes or parts that we have listed. And all my item codes say 0. So if I wanted to charge $100 for this and $500 for this, I can add that real quickly there. So those are really nice features too. So you have the ability to sort. We have the new lookup features where you're going to have the pop-up box to add your items. Again, any of these items you could sort by. You could do searches on this. So if I'm just looking for anything that just had service in it, there's everything that has service in it. Okay? And it makes it real easy to be able to pick and choose what you want to add. It should make the data entry a lot easier for that. Okay? So let me just go through. We have a few questions. I'm going to try to answer a few of these. Let me go through them. One question says, can we download whole days to our Apple Calendar rather than having to do appointments individually? Right now, I believe you do have to do them individually, but that is a nice suggestion, and maybe it's even something we could look to add to our automation utility. But the idea is we want to make that as interactive and highly functional as we can. So we wanted to get the first layer of the calendar syncing out, and then we want to expand on it from there. How does the sorting function features work on tablets? It works just the same way. You're just going to use your finger on an iPad instead of a mouse, but it works just fine. And I've tested it all out. Okay. And how do you add items and parts on the list that show up when you choose add item parts? Well, adding item and parts are going to be done through the setup feature. So let me just come over here to setup. And this is where you're going to add your items and parts. So here is my items, all of our items that we currently have. And here are all of my parts that we currently have in the database. And then you'll notice what we added in here is a new feature called categories and manufacturers. So manufacturers are just that. These are your manufacturers. So if I wanted to add a new one, you know, if I wanted to add Honeywell, and just so on, you could add as many what you want. Then what there is you might have a lot of parts already in your database, and you want to add Honeywell to which ones you want. So you can come over here, and you could click on this icon right here, and manufacturers to parts. So what it does, it brings up every part, and now every part that belongs to Honeywell, I could just come over here and click on. I could just go through this, select as many as I need to, and then if I say add parts, what it just did is it automatically assigned Honeywell to those 9 parts. So if I come over here now and look, you can see Honeywell is now assigned to all of those parts. So it makes it real easy to assign the manufacturer to your parts. Now, you could also go into any individual part. And so if I came over here to this part right here and I click Edit, I can choose the manufacturer, I could choose its category, and I could choose its subcategory. Okay? So you can do that individually from a part, or let's go back into the setup, go back into the category. This time I'm going into my categories. And you notice when you have categories, you have item categories and you have part categories. So here's my part categories, and you have categories and subcategories. So one category I made for parts in this test database was access equipment. And then my subcategory could be card readers, control panels, door strikes. I also created burglar equipment. And again, control panels, horns and sirens, keypads, motion sensors. So this is just a way for you to group your parts together. So when you're looking at a part, you know, oh, this is a keypad for a burglar alarm system. Now, and then you also then know the manufacturer, who that part is as well. For my items, you could do the same thing. So for example, I created one called installation for my installation sales, and then maybe I want to break it out to commercial sales and residential sales. And then if I want to assign an individual item code to either of these categories, I could just click on the assign right here. If I say I want to assign this one right here, I just click add, and it would automatically assign that category and subcategory to it. So it makes it real easy to do that. If you want to add a new subcategory from the category level, you just click the plus sign, and maybe I want to make a new one called, takeovers. And now I have a new subcategory assigned. If you want to create a new category, just click the new category button. So that's a really nice feature. What you'll see coming out in the next few months are some really nice reports that are going to go along with this. So I hope that answers your question and went a little bit further. Okay. Okay, so let's go on, and I want to show you a few other things, and then we'll come back to the questions. The next one's hard to show, but I'm going to go into the setup. And there is a new automation feature. This is really nice, and it's expiring credit cards. And what this will do is, first it will do is, if it's checked on the first day of each month, it's going to email you all credit cards that will be expiring this month or sooner, meaning they've already expired. So you automatically will get that emailed to you. And that goes to your general email address. What it will also do is it will automatically, and I apologize, I should have set this up beforehand to show you what the email looks like, but we'll get that out to everyone. It will automatically email the customer 2 months before their credit card is going to expire, and then again 1 month before it's going to expire, to let them know that their credit card is going to expire. If you have turned on to use the customer web portal, then it will give them the link where they could go in and update it themselves. If not, it will also give your company name and address and phone number for them to contact you to let them know to do that. So it's a way to be proactive on those credit card expirations instead of waiting until it's going to expire. But also with the credit card expiration report, you're still going to want to call your customers as well, because not everyone's going to be proactive and update it themselves. So that's a real nice feature too. Okay. Okay, another thing I want to show you on work orders. When you have a work order, and I'm just going to come down over here and just open up this one. There is a new feature called Void. You can void a work order now, and that will actually just close the work order down. Now, you cannot void a work order if you have billed it or if you have any open appointments. You'd have to resolve any appointments before you can void it, because we don't want to have those lingering appointments for it. But voiding it will void that work order if you void it. So you notice I will not have to go into this complete tab here. So I'm just going to click void. Are you sure you want to avoid this work order? The work order will be closed. I say OK, and it's closed that work order. So now this is a closed work order. Now, you'll notice on a closed work order now there's a new button called a reopen. So you notice the status automatically changed to void work order. Under my notes section, I can see that the work order was successfully voided on today's date, and I'm actually logged in with Travis's email, or his account, so it actually will say that it was done by Travis. So it puts records a record of who actually did this as well. Now, for some reason, if I made a mistake, I don't want to void this, I can now click reopen, and this would actually reopen the work order. And now I have a reopened work order. And I believe it should put a note in there, and it did, that my work order was reopened this time, and again, by who reopened it. So it flags that automatically. Now, you cannot void a work order once it's been invoiced. You can also not reopen a work order once it's been invoiced. So you can only reopen a work order that has never been invoiced or has been voided. So once you create that invoice, remember, that does lock down that work order. Okay. We've also added, let me go into this work order. Let me just click save here. We've added, right from the work order, a new print deliver feature. So if I wanted to email or print this work order, I can do it right from here as well. And you notice the email address that it's going to go to is the default email address right from the work order. But I can always override that if I wanted to. So that makes it real nice to be able to reprint a work order or to email it at any point in time. Okay. So I think that's pretty much all the notes I had. One other thing is I do want to show you. Let's go back into a customer here. So let me open up Michael. And I'm going to go into a miscellaneous invoice. So I'm just going to click on new invoice here. When I click on the invoice, I'll pick my site just as I did before. And you notice when I click on add items for this, it brings up my list so I can pick which items I want to add to this. There's my sort feature, so I can sort this. I can also see my rate. So, and you'll notice the rate now, I can actually take it out 4 decimal points, or I believe it's 4 when it's all said and done. But you'll notice what it will do is it will round it once it's in there from a printing point of view. I'm sorry, I could go out 2 decimal points. If you remember, prior to this release, the rate was always a full integer. You couldn't change the cents on it. So now we have the ability to be able to do that. So that's a new feature as well for your rate. And you can now do that and change that to anything you want it to be. Okay? So that's a new feature as well within here. Let me just click save to save that invoice. Let me show you something else when it comes to a recurring invoice on a customer. It used to be that when you generated a recurring invoice to a customer, and I believe this one is a recurring invoice. Yes. It used to be you couldn't edit the invoice. It was automatically locked. You can now edit the recurring invoice. And if I need to, I can edit this and add new line items to it. So I could even come over here and say add items and add additional item codes to it. Or I can duplicate line items by, this is my duplicate button. You can also, if there's multiple sites, you can assign, every time you assign the item code, you'll assign which site is it for. Now, and in this release right now, because it was just a little bit trickier, you'll notice the sort feature isn't in here. If it's a recurring invoice, you cannot change the sort order. That will change. We are going to add that back into it. So for the recurring edits, you will be able to modify the sort order. It just won't be for the initial release of this. We want to get this out the door. We're going to add that afterwards. So if you have a customer with multiple sites, like Michael Marks does now, because we added that new site, if I add a new item code, and I'm just going to say service fee for some reason, and I click add item, it's going to say, okay, which site do I want to add that for? So is it for the first site or for the second site? If I choose the second site, you'll notice what it did now is it added this item code for the second site, okay? You'll also know when you choose the site, it will automatically use the sales tax that's assigned to that site. And this happened to be, there was this sales tax code, this MM. So it used that sales tax, where for this site, it used my GC sales tax. Now, if I needed to reassign this, I could click reassign and reassign it to a different site. Okay, now you'll notice it moved it, and it moved it to the main site. Now, you'll notice some of these items have the reassign, some don't. That's because anything that's generated from the recurring invoices, the RMR that's set up for the customer, you cannot reassign that. You can delete it if you like and then recreate it under another site, but you cannot reassign it. You can only reassign ones that you manually entered. Now, this is a very important note. If you edit a recurring invoice and you build this customer the radio monitoring, it's not going to go, and you delete it, it will not automatically re-invoice that again. You would have to know that you have to re-invoice it because it's already set its next recurring date. So just be careful when editing recurring invoices that you understand that you don't want to lower your income or make a mistake by doing something incorrectly. Okay. So let's see. Let me go back to some questions in here. This one is about the work orders. Does the customer get to see the voided work order information on their side? Good question. I believe they can if they go into the work orders in the customer portal and they look at their closed work orders. They would be able to see it. I'm not positive, but I would imagine they can. And if that's not the case, I'll make sure that when Rebecca sends out the notice that she tells everyone if it's different. Can the labor rates be established per customer? Well, you don't really establish labor rates per customer, but what you can do is, and I assume you're talking about labor rates for service calls. What you can do is, if we go into the setup, you can create different service levels. So if you have a standard rate, like for example over here, this is maybe my standard time and material rates. But if you have a special customer and you set a special service rate for them, you could come into here and create a new service level plan and add that for a specific customer. So you can do that if you need to. Okay. How about having the email address be able to pull from the contracts tab for the customer? I like that idea, and I'm going to make sure we add that as part of our enhancement. So hopefully one of these next webinars you'll see that coming up. When adding a part or item, there is a box at the top right that says add new part item. Is that a quick access? I believe it is. So let's go take a look at that. And so let's go back over here to my customers. And I'm just going to pick a customer right here, Michael Marks. And let's click New Invoice. And let's click Add Items and Add New Item. Yep, you're absolutely right. Sorry, I didn't point that out. And I think I knew that too. But yes, you can go right in here and add a new item code right from here, as well as assign it its categories. And I imagine the same thing would be at the part level. And you do have to have privileges in your setup to add new items or parts, or it won't let you do that. So you have to have security permissions to do that. So if you didn't want someone to be able to add a new item or part, you could turn that off for that user, and they wouldn't be able to add it on the fly, because you might not want everyone to be able to do that, or next thing you know, you have way too many. When you generate a statement, will you be able to see individual line items? No, we don't do that. A statement is just really a statement. The idea behind it is, so let's go back into this customer, and if I wanted to generate a statement for them, it's really going to generate, in this case, 6 line items for each open invoice. If the customer needed the detail, then at that point, what I would do is I would reprint the invoice. And the easiest thing to do is go to the invoice and probably click Deliver and re-email them a new copy of that invoice. That's what you would do in that case. Okay. This one says, Brad said we'd be able to enter new parts or recommend a proposal in without having to go to the setup. Is that not the case? Well, no, you can do that. I just showed you, so you could do that from proposals as well. So if you're inside a proposal and you needed to add a new part right from here, you have to go into the edit first. And I said add part. I can then go right ahead and add that new part right from here. So you're able to do that from an invoice, from a part, and from a work order. Here's one more question. I am wondering when voids or reversals in Forte will reflect in AlarmBiller and open back up the invoice, as well as reflect the money was not collected. We are adding the ability to do a voids and reversals directly within AlarmBiller, so you won't have to go to the Forte web portal to do those soon. That was actually slated for this release, but there was just too much to get it out the door with everything else. I anticipate that will be in the next path of enhancements. Additionally, I do believe, though, if you do a reversal, it will automatically update in AlarmBiller. So I'm going to make sure that support follows up with that one, with that person who answered it and asked that question, to make sure that they could show you how that works. But I'm almost certain that that does work in there to do that. And then this one says, is there a way to view generated statements like you can with an invoice? I know that's something I'm not sure if we did yet, or it's something we are working on doing. Oops, that's the wrong one. So if I go into reports and I go into customer statements, and I say generate preview, yeah, right now I could see a list of all the customers that are going to get the statement, but I really can't preview them yet. That is on our development schedule, though, that we can do that real soon. And then got time for maybe one or two more questions. Here's one more that came in. Can you automatically select sales tax based on the zip code of the client site? Currently, no, but that is an idea that we have been discussing, and adding more intelligence to the setup of the sales tax, and that will be something that we will be looking into within the next few months, or hopefully sooner. But that's a great idea. It's something that I know would be very helpful to make sure that the sales taxes are set up correctly. To do it right, though, we have to do it more than just zip code, because some states really can get outside of zip codes, and they could get into townships or cities or counties. So we have to look at different ways to do that, and but it is something that we are going to look at. So I got one last question here, unless another one comes in when I'm done with this one. And this one seems more like a support issue. So it talks about documents getting scrambled on customers' pages. I will make sure that our support looks into that and gets back to you. So at this point, that's it. As you can see, there's a lot of great features within this release. Hopefully you like them, and makes the whole usage of the AlarmBiller platform better for you. And remember, as always, please keep your ideas and suggestions coming into us. They are so important. They don't go on deaf ears. The work we're doing to enhance the application and create new features and functionality comes from our users. So keep those ideas coming in. And lastly, if you are going to be in Las Vegas at the ISC show, be sure to look us up and stop by. We have a meeting room in the, it's called the Bellini section. I forget the room number offhand, but just give us a call or send us an email. We'll get you all the information, but we'd love to see you and catch up to you at the ISC show. So again, thank you all for attending today. The release should be out tonight, barring any last minute finds, and we hope you enjoy it. And thank you for your business. We really appreciate it. Thanks. Have a great day.